Sakaris and Price on September the 2nd. Blake Price alongside Jeff Pettersson, who's back for another tour of duty as guest host. Matt's away, and this show is a presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you here from the historic Wall Center in downtown Vancouver after the long weekend that was. How was yours, Jeff? What'd you get up to?
Look, I've been in vacation mode for a while now, so
Yes.
It was sort of an extension of the holiday. We had a good family getaway, and then you get back, and it's that first day of there's no food in the house.
I know.
And
or it's old
nobody
food.
mowed the lawn while I was away. What's going on? So there were some chores to be done. Kids are beyond school age. They're in university, but it's not the same as that first day back at school necessarily. So it was just kind of getting back into the swing of things. And look, Matt always makes fun of me, but it's a cross I'm willing to bear. That by the time September rolls around, like I still kind of geek out that it's hockey season, even though it's not really hockey season just yet. But we're close now. We're within a couple of weeks of those prospect games and training camp beyond that. Giants training camp underway, BCHL playing preseason games. It's hockey season, essentially. And so, I'm excited. I'm looking forward. There are a ton of unanswered questions about the Vancouver Canucks.
Boy, are there ever.
And we will start to get some answers here in the days and weeks ahead.
Beyond the empty fridge, coming back, whether you were closing up a cabin or coming back from camping or coming back from a vacation, is there anything worse than unloading the cooler of the food that you didn't eat while you were at any of those three locations? Because it doesn't feel like the freshest food anymore. It's a little sweaty. It's been in the cooler. I don't like putting that food back into the fridge. You shouldn't waste food. You should try to get through it, but I'm not excited about that food going into the otherwise empty fridge. So, I'm going to have some really boring, gross food over the next couple of days as I try to dial my way through that. We're going to start our day with perhaps a little bit of optimism. It's up to you, folks. Today's poll question brought to you by Bogey Juice. And everybody knows birdie juice, so at least they've heard of it. Maybe you haven't tasted it, and that's okay. A lot of golfers don't. That's why the fine folks at Resurrection Spirits have made Bogey Juice, now in 2 flavors, apple ginger or grape, both delicious, because everybody gets to celebrate Bogey Juice. And I mean pretty much everybody. So pour it over ice at the end of your round and enjoy the last vestiges of summer here. Go to bogeyjuice.com to get yours. Our poll question: how do you feel about Elias Pettersson's upcoming season with the Canucks? And it dovetails into our top story in just a moment here. Optimistic, nervous, or pessimistic? Cast your vote. Got a couple of days to tally up all the votes before Thursday's show and let us know how you feel. Jeff, what do you suspect the fan base is at right now?
I think people want to be optimistic.
They want to be.
It can't be worse than it was last year. A 45-point season for a guy making close to $12 million. He needs to be better. He knows it. The team needs him. And I think people want to get behind him and support him. They want the 100-point Petey back. But it's on him. And I guess the issue for me, as I kind of slide into the nervous category, is we said all of these same things last year because this struggle, this slump, goes back.
It started earlier, yeah.
And so we were saying all those same things that this time last year that, I can't wait to see him show up at training camp and, prove that the slump part of last season, that was the outlier and that the real Petey's going to be back. And then I remember in Penticton, you could see like he wasn't quite right. And whether it was the knee, whether it was up in his head, it was apparent that he wasn't back. And so as much as you want to believe the things that you've seen and the things you've read here in the like, I need to see it to believe it. Mm-hmm. And so I want to be optimistic. At the outset of every season, optimism abounds, but so much of any Canucks success is going to revolve around what they've got in the guy that wears number 40.
I mean, what would drag me towards the pessimistic is just what we saw out of him over the last, 15 months of hockey. Not good. Like, there's a bounce back that's needed. What drags me upwards is, there's not, like, you could imagine him a year ago arriving at Canucks training camp and seeing JT Miller's face and going, all right, I got to bite my lip here and be professional for the. It's just not a great way to launch your season. Like, they weren't besties. So not having that, I think, opens up the world for him a little bit. Getting married opens up the world for him a little bit. And our top story today perhaps opens up things just a little bit. I'm going to go nervous because I think, like the team, I could see the fan base saying, hey, there's such a wide variety of options of the way this could go that you could be just nervous, anticipating which way is this going to lean. It's a poll question. Cast your vote again, a couple days to tally that up. But as I said, it dovetails into our top story today, presented by Yellow Dog Brewing, Yellow Dog Spirits, Neighborhood Brewing, and Foolish Wine. And we're getting set to head up to Penticton, of course, for training camp this upcoming season. But Jeff, training camp, schmaining camp, Elias Pettersson may not need training camp because he's been trained up the yin-yang already, apparently. Pettersson's trainer went to Instagram to pump up his client before the season, before his departure. You would guess maybe their final session was complete and he felt the need to sort of get on the pulpit a little bit. But Elias arriving shortly, you would think, into Vancouver with the annual Jake Milford Canucks golf tournament coming up next Monday. But here's what Daniel Broberg. Look at him go. It's right there. I mean, it's cones. It is just cones. But here's what Daniel Broberg had to say. And the video you see there, courtesy of Broberg as well. His quote here. Elias is one of the most complex, exciting, but also most elusive players I have ever come in contact with. A top athlete combined with a great artist. Well, he can do things out on the ice that no other player in the world can do. Entire world can do. This summer has been awesome. Elias is stronger physically than ever before, but above all, there is now a balance between his physical and technical skill set. One of the strongest memories from our summer together is when his hip and upper body clicked. With that, so many pieces fell into place. He takes on speed and power with smoothness. His flow is on fire. I'm really excited, and I can't wait to see you in action this winter. End quote. Again, all that from Daniel Broberg, his Swedish-based hockey trainer. And all that, I mean, we haven't seen that. I don't recall Daniel Broberg going to bat for him quite like that, and it's the kind of year where maybe he needs that vote of confidence. But, Jeff, I mean, it all sounds really good. It
does. And, look, it was an 8-second clip,
yep,
but it looked smooth. It did. I'm not going to lie. It looked smooth, and that's great, and that's encouraging. And it was, a month ago when Petey himself came out and said, I'm out for revenge, and there was some, something lost in translation there, but basically looking to avenge last season and make amends for last season as well. Look, if he comes in here motivated, that's great. But summer talk is just that, and he's not going to be judged on what he says in the months of July and August. He's going to be judged the minute he hits town here, and we'll see if he takes part in some informal skates. I would think that he would. But then it's training camp, and we're 2 weeks out, basically just over 2 weeks from the first on-ice session in Penticton. And from that day, he's on the clock, and they need to see this guy that can dictate games at both ends of the ice, that, the skill just oozes out of him, and he works on instinct the way that he used to when he controlled hockey games and, was this fiend defensively. And it got to a point last year where, he had one good period in Toronto and his teammates were yelling Selke. There's some irony there.
Yeah.
That, it was basically one game. They need that from him every single night. That's the way he's getting paid. That's the kind of production that they need, is offensively, but also, first guy back, hounding players defensively, turning pucks over, all those things that he used to do. It's there. He hasn't forgotten how to play hockey, but boy, the last 15 months, you do start to wonder, has he forgotten some of the things that made him truly elite? He was a 100-point guy before he was 25. That's a short list.
Incredible. Yeah.
And most of the guys that were on that list skated through the front doors of the Hockey Hall of Fame. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to be the case for Pettersson. He's still got a lot of career left in front of him. But, he's done it before, and that's what gives you hope that he can do it again. But, again, I come back to the point, nobody's going to do it for him. And I think he understands that now, and the fact that JT's not here does clear a pathway for him to sort of come in and truly turn the page from whatever that was last season. But nobody wants a repeat of what we saw last year. And I would think Elias Pettersson's at the top of the list. So going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out. And, of course, he's got a new head coach, a guy he's familiar with. But Adam Foote's calling the shots now, and he's not Rick Tocchet. And so how does he handle Petey? How does he handle any kind of struggles? What kind of relationship do they have to build on? There are some, they know, but to the outside world, there are some uncertainties there as well. So want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but need to see it for myself. And an 8-second Instagram post isn't really going to sway my opinion of Elias Pettersson.
Let's say we take it even at face value, that there is a physical, technical click there for his upper body. Which, I believe to some degree that happened. To what degree, we don't know. But I believe they saw something happen at the midway point of their proceedings there in the summer. So that's good. But there also needs to be that mental click. And as you get older, we see this with a lot of athletes. Not all of them, but we see it with a lot of them, that there is that maturity click. And it's not that Elias was just immature. I think there were moments where I think that was evident. But there's also this the maturity also brings focus and priorities and all that sort of stuff, and that's where I think the wedding actually might help. Believe it or not, I think it's a minor version of the kid effect here of oh, okay, I'm playing for a greater purpose here, playing for somebody else officially. And hey, I'm a big boy now. I'm a crowned adult now. I am wedded to somebody else. And I think all that, and it's subconscious for the most part, but it's just okay, what am I going to let bug me on a day-to-day basis? And what am I going to focus on? And I think all that is possible. Until we've seen it, I understand any skepticism, but I think there's every bit the reason as well to wonder, to the positive, is it all going to come together? And hey, we cover this team on a regular basis, so selfishly, I would love to cover a new story for this particular player. I'm kind of done covering the old story, so I hope that's the case, and that success will, of course, bring about some more wins for the Vancouver Canucks, which is a lot more fun to cover for us as well. So I hope that's the case. And if they're saying upper body, but I think upper body still aids in this, core strength aids in this. But if there is a criticism of even Elias Pettersson at his best, Jeff, I think it would say resilience and ability to stay on his feet and all that sort of stuff. People had that even in his 90 and 100-point season. So that doesn't hurt either. I think that's a thing he needed to work on anyhow. And I don't think we're going to see him shredded, but it sounds like they concentrated on, and it's just better to hear this stuff than not hear it at all.
For sure.
He could have shown up at training camp and not heard any of this, not said any of this, and we just would have been left to our own devices. But it's better to know that at least it was focused on, that they are aware of what needed to be done.
Now, the things that I've seen, and they've been snippets, and he's not as prominent in social media as he used to be, and that's his decision.
Mm-hmm.
But the things that I've seen have been positive.
Yeah.
But I also, we've both been at this long enough. I don't want to read too much into anything that I see here in the offseason. But again, the little bits and morsels that we're getting are positive. And that in itself is a positive as well. So, I wrote a column at Canucks Army yesterday as we hit September. And basically the crux was we're not going to get all the answers to the Vancouver Canucks in the next 30 days. But this month will be revealing, and things like seeing Elias Pettersson on the ice, seeing him in a couple of preseason games, I don't think I'm alone here. I think the organization, you need to see a few flashes, right? I don't need him to dominate preseason. I don't need him to be the best guy at training camp. There are other guys at camp that probably have more on the line. His spot on the roster is set here.
Yes.
But I need to see some flashes, because if I don't, then I am going to wonder, like, what has changed from last year and the final 3 months of the previous season. And
wouldn't it be great to see him rip a wrist shot? Like, I have real simple, I have low bars to, like, that was just a God-given talent that he had. And it got diminished in the last couple of years. Like, I would love to see him in a preseason. As you said, if he plays 20 minutes or 18 minutes in a couple of preseason games, I don't need him to be good for all 18. But I'd love 3 minutes, which is like 3 shifts, 4 shifts maybe. Give me 4 good shifts. Wire shot. Maybe pick up a goal or two.
Remember last year the preseason goal that Daniel Sprong scored out in Abbotsford?
Yes. I mean, that's a high bar. That was a gorgeous.
But like, if Elias Pettersson had scored that, like, the city as one would have risen up and declared that he was back in that moment.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't need him to go coast to coast and score a tying goal in the dying seconds in the preseason. If he does, great. But I need to see a few of the things that make him a special player. And when he is on, he's got a skill set that is unique, and not many guys in the National Hockey League have it, but it's been far too long since he's put it on display with any regularity. And so I want to believe that the 45-point season was an aberration, that, there were some injuries, started with the knee. There was, whatever it was that happened at Christmas when he missed a little bit of time as well. And then ultimately they shut him down with, 15 games to go. It sounds like he's had a full and healthy summer to train. Same with Thatcher Demko. And so those are reasons for encouragement that those guys are two of the most important pieces the Vancouver Canucks have. If they hit the ground running in Penticton and can regain their form, it can go a long way to changing the narrative around this hockey club.
2 more non-training camp weekends before they hit the ice in Penticton. One of those, we know where you should be. The Whistler Beer Fest is back, and Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing are in on the fun. So grab your tickets for this super fun and iconic event. Saturday, September the 13th, Whistler Beer Fest. Be there or be square. Ben Kuzma had Pettersson on the brain too over the weekend. Caught up with Don Hay to wonder what Evander Kane could do for Petey's game, and I guess I can see those 2 dots connected. I wonder if Adam Foote is going to start there with those 2 dots connected. We know, Jeff, Jake DeBrusk has been very clear he wants to be there with Elias Pettersson on his line. I would guess Brock Besser does as well. So it gets complicated, and in the chat, people have already gone down that rabbit hole, dovetailing off of our top story regarding Elias Pettersson. Mike says, my nervousness is actually off the poll question. My nervousness is the coach Foote. Brendan saying, I think the coaching is more well-rounded, and Colin saying, also think the coaching is more positive than Tockett's staff was. We can get to some of those comments in a second, but first let's address the Kane possibility. Is the default position for Adam Foote to use Kane in that position as sort of the protector of Elias Pettersson?
I can understand that line of thinking.
Yeah.
And really, when you think of the success of the Lotto line, Evander Kane's not JT Miller at the current stages of their careers, but JT did a lot of the heavy lifting on that Lotto line in terms of being physical, getting in, turning pucks over, board battles and those types of things. Can Evander Kane still, at the age of 34, be effective in that role? And there are people that would say, hey, get out there, provide some space, protection perhaps for Elias Pettersson. Yeah, maybe. But to your point, Jake DeBrusk sitting over there saying, hey, I scored 28 last year in a year in which Elias Pettersson really wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. Like, don't I deserve the chance to play with an amped up Petey? And the answer is, yeah, you probably do. But then Brock Besser is the best right winger that this team has.
They're all going to get their looks. I'm just wondering about where's the launching point from?
You remember last year, Jake DeBrusk started on left wing with Elias Pettersson, and by the 3rd game, I think he was down to the 3rd line at some point. Yeah. Like, he moved around early, and he went 9 games without a goal, and I remember talking to him, and he was trying to remain positive and didn't want to step out of line, but basically said, like, I've played with a bunch of different people already. I come to a new team, like I was hoping to get some chemistry established, and it didn't really happen for him early on. And as we know, he's a streaky guy, and we saw that a lot throughout last season. But through it all, he's had a career high. He had 28 goals on a team that didn't have a lot of goal scorers, and 14 of them came on the power play. And so he did what he was expected to do, and at $5.5 million, like that became a bargain contract.
Absolutely, he's one of the good stories.
So yeah, I mean, again, on my list of things in this column was, we won't know the starting lineup because opening night's October the 9th, but I would hope that a first-year head coach wouldn't dick around in training camp and experiment too much. Like, I think it would behoove Adam Foote to try to establish some chemistry early on and get a better sense of what he's got to work with. The games early mean as much as the games late. In fact, some of them, sometimes they mean more if the games late don't mean anything. So it's a new coaching staff. They've got to come together here. I'm fascinated to see. It's short. Training camp is only 3 days of on ice, but what does an Adam Foote training camp look like? How different is it from, he is a Rick Tocchet protege, but he's his own guy. So,
and he's a strong-minded guy, I think. Like, he's not a wilting lily wallflower here. So I think he's going to put in his own Adam Foote spin on it.
It would serve him well and the hockey club well to try to work with some line combinations through preseason and hopefully establish something there that you can hit the ground running when the games begin to matter.
One of the chatters there on YouTube was suggesting he'll be more positive. I think Tocchet eventually got frustrated with the team as it became more evident where they were going. But I don't think the totality of Rick Tocchet's experience in Vancouver was that he was a negative guy. Now, with the media versus with the players is often a different thing. But how do you think that the tone with the players, who cares with the media, but with the tone with the players, what do you think that's going to look like versus Rick Tocchet?
Yeah, like Adam Foote, we know was just a hard rock, like big hitting, tough defense guy to play against.
And his exterior looks tough too, like it does.
But I will say this, that the Canucks, and I don't think they're the only team in the National Hockey League, but they really have streamlined their messaging so that even though Adam Foote was the de facto number one assistant coach and the right-hand man for Rick Tocchet, really didn't get much access to him.
Right.
He ran some practices when Tocchet was away at Four Nations. That was his only official capacity to sort of speak with the media. I'd say hi to him in the hallways in passing, but I think in terms of getting a true read on him and his interactions with people around the rink, I'm not sure that I'm in a position to make that judgment right now, but it's going to be something to watch here. It seems friendly enough, but also has that game face that you talked about.
Yeah.
But everybody's different. Like, we know that Quinn Hughes went to bat for him, and Quinn Hughes has spoken repeatedly about how much he respects Adam Foote and the way that he coaches and the way that he treats his players. And so, we'll see if there is some trickle down there for a guy like Elias Pettersson or perhaps other players that, just mesh differently with this coach as opposed to the last guy that was here.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those very intriguing conversations, and nothing that'll be solidified in stone by October the 1st or even November the 1st. We'll probably need a couple of months to sort of get a lay of the land there. One other note from the National Hockey League, and an important one. We had heard these changes because of the new CBA, and we knew all this was coming at some point, but it's official now. Puckpedia's done a good job of covering all this. Not all of it is ready for this year, but a couple of really important ones are ready for this coming season. Playoff salary cap begins for these playoffs.
Good.
And, Jeff, LTIR changes are starting this year too, which means LTIR for a player. You get your player out for a long-term injury on November the 1st, let's say, and he's gone for a couple of months. He's an $8 million player. This is just an example. You only get relief under the salary cap for the NHL average league salary, which is 30. Well, last year was 3.6, I think, or something like that. So 3.6, not $8 million, which is what the player's worth, unless the player is written off for the entirety of the season and the playoffs. If you expect that player injured on November the 1st, November the 15th is back in late January, which is still a long time, but he's coming back, nope, you don't get his full value. So these two things work in tandem, Jeff. Both of these things, the salary cap for the playoffs and the LTIR, all of this is to thwart the wink, wink, nudge, nudge injuries, quote unquote, that heal just in time for game one, round one of the playoffs. You're not going to get the relief to.
We're looking at you, Vegas Golden Knights.
Like, you're not stacking $8 million or $10 million players on top of each other during the regular season, because you won't be given that leverage if the player X is coming back. Player Y is going to be half the player X is if player X is coming back. So it's interesting, but we're going to see. And maybe, Jeff, maybe this is why it's been such a quiet offseason. Maybe teams are making sure they've got cushion during the year once they realize what kind of team they've got, knowing they can't do this anymore.
Well, a couple of things. One is, keep in mind, Evander Kane didn't play a regular season game last year and then was ready to go for the playoffs. And look, I'm just a believer that there ought to be a level playing field, that you work under a cap all season long and then you see the crap that some of these teams have pulled. And it wasn't illegal because there hasn't been a playoff salary cap. Like, I'm just in favor. I think this is the right thing for the National Hockey League. The LTIR change is interesting to me because if a guy is out with a broken leg, there's a fairly definitive timeline.
Yeah.
If it's a shoulder, same deal. But if it's a head injury and the uncertainty that comes along with that, teams are going to have to make some difficult decisions. And if it's a key player with a head injury that they know they want come playoff time, but if there's an uncertainty there and players just not showing progress, like,
hadn't thought of that. The concussion issue,
So,
and we've already seen this with Canuck players and elsewhere around the league. You think this concussion is a quote unquote mild one? You think said player's back in a month, and then 3 months later, said player is still not back? Like, you just don't know.
Yeah.
So, hey, you're not going to be able to thread this needle perfectly, I don't think, as a league. But this could be malleable and could be, players in the Players Association are going to have a say on these sorts of things as they get implemented and as we see how it works. I would guess that they are open to tweaking that going forward.
And it's like the sort of the rolling implementation of the new CBA that is been agreed to. Doesn't come into law until September 16th, 2026. But some of the provisions are being put in place, like the playoff salary cap, for next year's playoffs. So we will see it as soon as next year's playoffs. But again, the new CBA doesn't officially take hold until basically, 370 some days from now.
Yeah, so there's other things like drafted players' rights retentions, minor league compensation, minimum salary increases, all of that the following year for 26-27, not for this year. Mandatory neck guards. Everybody's going to look like Connor Garland soon, but not until next year. So, yeah, it's the phased roll-in of all these sorts of changes via the CBA. Normally, this is where we'd love to bring you a tidbit of news from the Whitecaps or Lions, but the sports gods have conspired against us.
Quiet on the Western Front.
A long weekend, captive audiences. Neither this weekend. Lions have a bye week, although there was action for them, around them, if you will, that impacts them. They watch Calgary and Saskatchewan get wins over the weekend, so the top two teams in the West get better. Hosting a playoff game is looking pretty impossible at this point. Catching Winnipeg took a bit of it got a lift because Winnipeg lost, but remember, the Bombers thrashed them twice in a row earlier this year. They've got the tiebreaker on the Lions.
They're looking at the crossover.
Yeah. I mean, they'd have to get red hot to jump over Winnipeg. So otherwise, you're right. They're looking at the crossover. Whitecaps watch.
Just quickly, because I was on vacation, but I was keeping tabs on what was going on. Just the idea of the Lions getting red hot. I mean, they've been so inconsistent, but my goodness, that was tough to stomach.
I said it going in because they've won back-to-back games twice this season, and then just as they're going for that third straight win, they lay eggs. So what are you guys? What are you? Now, there's a lot of hype over a couple of players they've just recently brought in. Hopefully that provides the...
Great. I mean, they've got to do something. You got to make a stop.
Got to make a stop.
And just couldn't. They had no answer for Toronto of all teams. But now Toronto beat Hamilton.
No, they're better than their record indicates, I think, for sure. Whitecaps watched San Diego win, and that's, again, going to be tough to catch them for first. But now they have 2 games in hand on Minnesota, who lost, so they are just 2 points back of the Loons. They got the 2 games in hand, so second place, at least in the conference, looks very doable, which preserves your home pitch advantage through the playoffs to the last moment at the very least. They had their match postponed this weekend, of course, because of Leagues Cup. Orlando had to play the third-place match. Why a third-place match? Well, that was still for a Champions Cup spot. That's why. Otherwise, yes, I can understand the raised eyebrows there. They lost that, though, so it was all for naught for Orlando. But down the I-5, Jeff Pettersson, almost 70,000 fans. And these are last-second deals because you don't know if your team's qualified for the games, right? So they started with 40 or something committed. They got up to almost 70,000 fans to watch the Sounders play Miami. And don't you know, they punked them 3-0. And the superstars of yesteryear, in a lot of cases for Miami, were very frustrated about it. At the final whistle, Luis Suarez appears to have spit on a Seattle coach. Busquets appears to throw a sucker punch on a player in a full-time melee. This was not your usual soccer match at the end. And it's a bit of a black eye. It is. It doesn't.
Sure it is.
Black eye on the team for sure.
This may sound stupid, but I got more time for a guy taking a swing at an opponent than spitting. I just to me,
he's bit and spit now.
It just doesn't get any lower. And so this will be interesting. This will be a test for, I assume MLS still governs.
This is their baby, Leagues Cup. Yeah. So how they discipline this is going to be very interesting. Yeah.
And again, for me, spitting, come on. I hope they throw the book at this guy.
So that's the micro. How about the macro? Does Messi feel like this has been worth it so far? He's going into an option year. He had the one Leagues Cup when he arrived in 2023. Nothing since. No Champions Cups, no MLS Cups. It's short term. I mean, for any other player, you're not sweating this. But it's Messi. And I wonder if in his own brain, he figured he'd have a little bit more hardware here in little old North America by this point. And he's brought in, Rodrigo De Paul just arrived. Big names continue to go there, and they aren't dominating. Now, I hope he doesn't go away. I think he's been great for the league, even if he doesn't speak, like David Beckham once did and like Mueller is here in Vancouver, for heaven's sakes. But I wonder, he's not used to this. And he's continued to win scoring titles, and he still might do that. He might get a golden boot this year. That's possible. But, Gretzky didn't win many cups after Edmonton, did he? Jordan didn't bring the Wizards any glory. When eventually you get to that age where you alone cannot do it, and this is a pretty big team sport, more so than the NBA certainly was with Jordan. And, Gretzky can only do so much as a hockey player too. But, as you get older, it is tougher to make the impact that you once did. And I hope we haven't seen the last of Messi at the end of this season because, through a World Cup year and such, I think it would be a lot of fun to see Messi hanging around. And I think he might give it a go with Argentina again next year at the World Cup. Having Messi versus Mueller would be fun as well. So a lot of good reasons to make it happen. But I do wonder if he's a little bit dismayed at how this is rolled out ultimately.
Yeah, perhaps. When it comes to trophies, and maybe he thought it would be easier than it's been, but his mark has been undeniable.
Yeah.
And again, yesterday in Seattle, 70,000 people are showing up to see a football match in Seattle.
They're a great fan base. They're getting 40 or 50 without him for sure, but 70 is something crazy.
That's a big number.
It's a big number.
So, no, I'm with you. He still looks fit. He seems relatively healthy.
And he's doing his part. He is performing well. but the team
right.
success
So,
isn't there.
we have seen where guys just physically can't go anymore.
Right.
I don't think that's the
not
case
him, right?
here.
No.
And so, yeah, I mean, just given the stakes of 2026 in North America, and the opportunities to grow the game with a World Cup, I hope that he is still part of the MLS story.
And to argue against my point, it looks like Inter Miami has done everything he's wished them to do. Right? So if there's been an error in the game plan, it looks like a lot of this has been Messi's game plan based on who's been brought in. So we will see. It's time to get to today's menu for today's show, brought to you by Greta Bar YVR. It's a great spot to watch the big game. We've told you that countless times, but did you know it's a great spot for bonding as well for your upcoming party or work event? You need some social building, team building. Check out Greta. It's got this great street food menu. The arcade is so much fun. You can bounce around the games with your colleagues and friends. Check it out for more info and to book your event. They've got a great private space at the back, which is what we use for our private events. You'll enjoy it too. GretaBar.com. It's at 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. Our good friend David Pagnotta joins us from the fourth period, Hockey Insider. A quiet summer in Vancouver, yes, opens the door for some criticism towards management, except that it has been a deadly quiet offseason everywhere. And so we talked to David about that.
There wasn't a single trade made in August. I'd have to go back and look, but I think the Dakota Joshua trade was the last trade in the NHL. Like, come on. For all the talk of we need to get better and opportunities in the offseason, and like I get some downtime, but GMs can make trades from the cabin or the golf course.
Well, we've got precedent. Like, we know that this stuff has happened in basically every other NHL offseason. This is suspicious. Like, it's almost suspicious. Like, what led to this quiet market with all the salary cap space still available? We asked him to fire up that Luke Hughes Hates Devils project we've been working on. Don't know that it's going to work. And we find out what's up with Connor McDavid's next contract with the Edmonton Oilers. Also, Arjun Amla of the Vancouver Canadiens stops by. They're heading into their final 6 games of the season over at Bailey Stadium. You won't want to miss them, of course, but the 19-year-old has had a fine year in his first year, playing more games than he's ever played in his entire life. So we'll get into how the second half has worked out for him and what he expects going forward in his career. Time now for our best bets of the day, brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of Sekeres and Price. And we've got some tennis to talk about going forward here. We'll get to the full story there. But needless to say, Leila Annie Fernandez and Venus Williams has become a story at the U.S. Open. And here's the thing. They are shot out of a cannon, 3-0, having never played together before. But they are the big-time dogs going into this quarterfinal matchup. They've got the number 1 seed, Taylor Townsend, who had a nice run on the singles side, and her partner, the top seed. So Leila and Venus Williams are plus 400 dogs on the money line. So you get to cheer them on as underdogs and, maybe be the better for it. So go check that one out at plus 400. Who you got?
Well, I'm looking at Felix's match against Alex de Minaur, the Australian, who's the 8th seed. Felix has made pretty quick work of opponents here of late. I don't know that this one's going to be, it won't be easy. You're playing a top 10 guy in a Grand Slam. And maybe this is the easy way out, Blake, but I'm not taking a winner. I'm just looking at total sets. I think the thing is going to go the distance.
Savvy bet. I like it.
And so you can get 5 sets at plus 200.
Okay. I like it. I think it's going to go the distance as well. This segment of presentation of Bet365, whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use the code NATION. Bet365 must be 19 years or older. Please play responsibly. Big show ahead. David Pagnotta next. Sekeres and Price from the Wall Center, featuring Jeff Pettersson, of course, and soon to be featuring a very special guest. And it's all brought to you by the fine folks at Redwoods Golf Course. The Redwoods Golf Course has, a spectacular golf course attached to it, of course, that we both know from many, many years of playing. But we want to tell you about their fabulous facility that they've got there. The practice facility is out of sight, a massive practice green, a range that goes for days, fully covered, which protects you from the heat and the rain, depending on the season that you're trying to practice in. There's even a place to practice fairway bunker shots.
Ooh.
Like, when do you ever get the chance to practice fairway bunker shots?
I like that.
Yeah. So you can
I didn't know that. I may have to just swing by.
There you go.
Yeah.
Private and semi-private adult lessons are available, flexible to your schedule. Go check it out. Craig and his crew at the Golf Academy will have you set. Redwoods-golf.com/instruction. Fourth period's David Pagnotta joins us now after the quietest summer I can possibly remember, David. Not only from a Canucks perspective, but league-wide. I hope you had a very relaxing summer, because it may not get better than that.
It was because of the not even lack of activity. There was no activity at all. I mean, everybody talked a pretty big game after July 1, after the draft and after July 1, that we're going to get some work done over the summer and we're going to get things going, and made us all excited. And nothing, not even a hint that something significant, something massive was close, or had been close over the course of the summer. So hopefully that translates into a very active September before the season gets going. But based on the last, 6 weeks, I don't know if I'd hold my breath.
Yeah, it's always this vicious cycle, though, and we've gone through it for years where you know, the trade deadline comes and teams didn't get done what they want, and so then it becomes, well, there's going to be a few teams that flame out in the playoffs, and they're clearly going to be active in the summertime, and then free agency opens, and again, teams miss out, and it's like, it just keeps kicking this can down the road. They all got a huge bump in the salary cap this year, Dave, and there's still seemingly this sense of everybody's content with mediocrity.
The money is laying there, and they're not using it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's going up at least another $8.5 million next summer. So spend it, please, because it makes life easier for us to talk about and gets everybody excited. There was so much hype after draft and right after July 1, like later on that evening, that talking to a lot of people around the league, and they're going, we're gonna look for this piece. We didn't get that piece. We want to find that piece via the trade market. I guess we have to pivot now to the trade market, and that's why everybody was reporting that we're going to have an interesting summer, and it's probably going to be in ebbs and flows. We didn't even get that, so a little disappointing on that end. Hopefully, we do see some fireworks this month. Camps get going in a couple of weeks. Players are either back in their cities or coming back over the next few days to get reacclimated. So hopefully that starts to get people buzzing a little bit. And it's definitely going to, we'll have some spotlights or some headlines, and spotlights get stolen by some of the big boys that need contracts going into next season. So I'm sure that'll take some headlines. But so far, activity-wise, trade-wise, no, big, sad trombone.
Jim, Jim has been held to account for what he said at the start of the summer. Jim Rutherford saying it would be more expensive not to get a second line center than it will be to get one, knowing that it would be very expensive to get one. But that's what we've held to, and him to, and it's why we expected the Canucks to go and do something. And I expected it to be as underwhelming, and all due respect, as underwhelming as Jack Roslovic, something like that.
Right.
Like that. I held open the possibility that it would be something massive, that they would rejig everything and pay a steep price for a legitimate player. I was ready for that too. Neither one of those situations happened. Do you think they came close? Did you, in maybe more in July than in August, cross paths with them much in terms of their name on the rumor mill at all about them digging deeper on this?
I wish I had some sexy names to throw at you. I don't. Nothing that was overly impactful or anything that felt like it was getting close. I'm sure, like every team, you do your due diligence. That's part of your job. You go out there, you find out, you poke around, you start to, around that time of year, you hear names that teams aren't necessarily shopping, but teams are poking around on, and they kind of let that name kind of get out there a little bit, and it leads to nothing because there's nothing there. I think the Canucks certainly tried to, comb the market and see what was out there in terms of the center position. I just don't think they got close on anything. Anything that would have spurred up any type of excitement. I spoke with Philip Hedl a couple of weeks ago in Milan at the NHL European Media Tour, and he was pretty dead set on kind of locking himself into that position at the 2C come camp. Obviously, that's going to be up to him, and barring an addition from the outside, he's going to be given every opportunity to compete for that role. And he seemed pretty confident and pretty excited about the opportunity to harness that role. Obviously, we got to wait and see once camp gets going.
Blake mentioned Jack Roslovic. Is he planning to play hockey this season?
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, he is. He is. I think there's been a lot of linkage to Toronto, a lot of ties to the Leafs, but I think a lot of that is part and parcel to the Leafs having to clear out space. They've got some cap space, but they've got basically 5 lines that they can deploy. And that's really 2-3 more guys than they need right now. They've been trying to trade, and they had, going back to June, guys like David Camp and Kelly Yarncrook. There just hasn't been a market for those guys. And that's why they're still on the team. Now, does that change as camps get going? Maybe there are some injuries. Maybe some teams realize that, we've got a hole here that we got to fill. And maybe that's the direction they go in. And that opens up a slot in Toronto to bring in Roslovic. But maybe that's the same situation with another club. But we'll see kind of how that goes. He'd like to play. There's interest in him. It's just, everybody's trying to penny pinch, even though a lot of teams have cap space. And maybe he has Toronto and another team as his top choices. It's just a matter of those teams having to create space in order to accommodate him.
I mean, it's funny the way it plays out. And look, he's bounced around before, so moving to a new team isn't going to be something new to him. But, these guys are human beings. Like, generally, you'd like to know your future. You'd like to, get to your city and get settled. In some ways, this is going to be like a trade for him. Like, he's going to get a deal done and have to just get on with life and adapt to his new surroundings.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's still doing the same thing like everybody else. Over the course of the summer, you're training on and off the ice. You're getting ready for the new season. He'll land somewhere. But yeah, given the timing and given the fact that camps get going in a couple of weeks, yeah, it's effectively how it's going to be. He's going to be basically just thrown into the fire. Now it's training camp, so it's a little bit easier. The flames aren't as bright. But it's kind of like that. He's not going to have too much time to get acclimated to wherever he ends up. And a lot of guys want that stability. I'm not comparing the two players, but Matt Duchene, going into the summer after signing a couple back-to-back one-year contracts with Dallas, he said it. At the end of the season, he wants stability. He wants security for him and his family. I'm sure every guy does. In this scenario, for a guy like Roslovic, it's going to be, you're just going to have to go in there guns a-blazing, and things are going to have to happen quick for you.
For the RFAs that are not offer sheet eligible, there's not a whole lot to do coming out of your ELC. Like, there's not a lot of options, and you have not a lot of cards to play. So you can say, hey, it's so easy, they'll get it done before training camp. But you also say, it's so easy, why isn't it done to this point? Which brings me to our little pet project. We're trying to drive a wedge between Luke Hughes and the New Jersey Devils. Can you aid and abet this in any way, shape, or form? We would like to make this a story. Is that possible?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. The other brother's there too, so he's.
I know. You gotta move one before you move two, David. We're
I think he's got a little influence on that one. Pretty sure they still live together, but I haven't gotten the sense that it was going to be tumultuous. That this was going to be a rough scenario for them. Now, I'm not overly surprised based on the lack of activity this summer that it hasn't been done yet. But I never got the sense from his camp or from the Devils, or speaking to them earlier on in the season, that this was going to be a bit of an issue. He's not eligible for an offer sheet. I don't think it would really matter, especially from the Devils' perspective. They want to get something done. It's just a matter of juggling, especially nowadays, with the cap going up, and it's projected to go up, and with the anticipation that eventually we're going to move or grow, in the league. Atlanta's hovering, Houston's in the offing, and so on and so on. The league is going to continue to be on an incline, and revenues are going to continue to be on an incline. The next two cap projections are projections. Those are baselines. Those could grow even further. 8.5 going up next season. It could go to 10, depending on how revenues go over the course of this season. So there's a lot of money to burn. And for players, it's a matter of, do you want to secure yourself into an 8-year deal, or do you want to go bridge? Because he's only 21. You can even sign a 4-year deal and still give yourself a little bit of flexibility there to see how the market rejigs itself. Or do you want to go full 8 for now? Because eventually that 8-year term is going to drop to 7. So that's what they're juggling. And I think the Devils would love to lock something in. It's just a matter of coming to that common ground. And I think they'll get there this month.
For Hughes, I don't understand what's happening there. For Rossi and McTavish, I was a little bit more understanding. These guys are coming off pretty electric seasons. Just the rough and tumble nature of McTavish and Rossi's pure skill. Like, I understand why there was an issue there. That being said, for McTavish, this is extended. This is, prolonged.
Yep.
What's ultimately the play there, do you think?
I think there's a question mark from his side and his camp with respect to usage and deployment and the evolution of his game. How's he going to continue to grow as a player? How's he going to expand his skill set? And is he going to be given the opportunity to play top 6 minutes, top power play minutes, and so on in Anaheim with some of the additions that they've made and with the plethora of young talent that they've got there? I don't think anyone's going to deny that he's got that 2C potential locked in, but the way that they are going about this season, bringing in a couple of pieces. They have Ryan Strome. They brought in Granlund, who, yes, can play center and the wing. Quenneville is behind the bench now. He's a veteran guy that likes his veteran players. So how is he going to what's McTavish's usage going to be under Q, and so on and so on. So I think that's factored in to a little bit of initial disappointment when the summer really got going with respect to how he was going to be utilized this coming season. I think tempers have cooled a little bit in that regard. I know there was that chatter about offer sheets. The Ducks have $1 trillion of cap space. Yes. So I don't think that was never going to be an issue. It's more so the concern from the player and his side and his representatives, just questioning and wanting to have a better understanding of how he's going to be used and how that's going to expand him as an NHL player and evolve him. So I think that's been the primary concern. The Ducks love the kid. They want to keep him, but that hasn't stopped teams from poking around. If the right offer, whatever the right offer is in Pat Verbeek's mind is presented, I'm sure he'll consider it. But their priority is to keep him. We'll see how much longer that kind of goes.
I know Blake wants to get to the hot button issue in Edmonton, and of course some angst now creeping in. It's September, and Connor McDavid still hasn't signed an extension there. But I want to ask you about another of the top players in the NHL. Nate McKinnon turned 30 yesterday. We know his place in the game. 3 straight 100-point seasons, although in those 3 years, the Avs have got out of the first round once. Not because of his lack of performance, but I wonder, as you sort of look at the big picture of this NHL season, with McKinnon and Cale Makar in their primes, are the Avalanche still on your list of top Stanley Cup contenders, or are they, maybe do they fall a tier below some of the other teams that you think are truly constructed to win now?
I put them just a hair below the top echelon of contenders right now. Just because I want to see how their depth is going to produce this season. What made them so successful when they won the Cup was their depth was really what pushed them forward when push came to shove. Obviously Makar and McKinnon and Rantanen and Landeskog and so on, and Taves were doing their thing, and goaltending was solid. The D was deep and strong. They were getting contributions from up and down the lineup. I want to see how that depth kicks in this year, and how Landeskog over a full season is going to perform, and how that's going to affect this team. So for now, I kind of put them a smidge below. I think they can get there, but we'll see kind of how the season kind of moves along for them before I kind of put them back into that top tier. Is Brock Nelson going to continue to replicate what he's done the last couple of seasons, and is he going to kind of cement himself as that 2C in that group? And giving them a legitimate contending 2C along with the rest of that roster and stabilizing that top 6. So again, I kind of want to see where they're at as the season progresses before I determine whether, at least for me, whether Colorado is back to that top echelon group of the league.
Let's finish up on the big guy, Connor McDavid.
I thought you meant Kaprizov.
McDavid already has a longer career than Bobby Orr. And that is to say, hey, no one would begrudge him that after playing over 800 games in Edmonton colors, well, it would be just under, I guess. If he did want to see greener pastures. Now, he said he wants to win at Edmonton. He didn't put a timeline on that, David. It could mean this year. And I do believe he would love to win a Stanley Cup for Edmonton. I do believe that is a true statement.
So do I.
But I don't necessarily think that's exclusive from I would like to win a Stanley Cup this year at Edmonton and then see what I want to do after that. I don't think he wants to leave. I don't think his mind has got to that point yet. But I think he's wanting to reserve judgment on that. Where are you on this?
I would be it's a couple things. One, I would be very surprised if he doesn't sign some type of extension with the Oilers. I'm not expecting it to be full term. It can be. He mentioned all options are on the table. But I would be surprised if something in the midterm isn't going to be locked in. Whenever that is, obviously, we're going to have to wait and see. I think a big part of that is just what's the game plan for this club moving forward? Where are they? Yes, the cap's going up. It makes it a lot easier and palatable to eat, as many contracts in the 10+ range as the Oilers have. But I think they want to see where are we going and what's the backup plan? If the season doesn't start the way we want it, if the defense isn't up to snub, if goaltending isn't up to snub, if bottom six isn't working, what's the plan to remedy those issues? And does the plan get implemented now? And if so, how does that affect years 2, 3, 4, and 5 after this one? Or is this an off-season issue because it's easier to do? Well, normally it's easier to do stuff in the off-season. And what are the options there? What's the plan there? So I think all of that's factoring in and should factor in for a guy like Connor McDavid. Again, that said, I don't see a scenario right now where there's not going to be an extension. I don't think it'll be full term. But when that comes into play, I'm not sure. And then, there are some guys that are waiting as well. I think Jack Eichel and his camp have a good idea of what the number is going to be for him in Vegas. And then Kaprizov and his camp, they've got a good number as to what that's going to be and what it'll take to keep him in mini. But if Connor signs a 3-year deal at $20 million each, how does that affect their negotiation practice? So I think it certainly has a trickle effect. And some of these guys may at the end of the day say, look, this is going to take too long. Forget it. I'm comfortable with this deal here. But I do think it's going to factor into some of the other guys that are out there. And it's going to start to set the tone for how the market is going to play out moving forward for other guys like Cale Makar and so on that are going to need some big tickets eventually.
If this was the NBA, those three would play together, wouldn't they? They'd go agree on a market and meet there next year.
Exactly.
David,
Atlanta.
Yeah, there you go. With an expansion team, yes. Launch them into the stratosphere. David, thanks for this. Appreciate it. Let's hope September's more fun than August was, and considering training camp starts up and stuff, I think it probably will be. But thanks for doing this.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Dave.
it.
You got it, boys. See ya.
It's Garrison Price from the historic Wall Center and the Vancouver Canadians heading into the final homestand of the season. That's a little sad when just to say that sentence.
Yeah.
I mean, it tells us that summer is wrapping up. It's against Everett. First pitch tonight, Tuesday, 7:05. It's Take Your Pooch to the Park night. Dog Days of Summer. Thursday's a meet and greet with James Paxton, which is very cool. Friday, the final nooner. And then Saturday's college night and post-game fireworks. But 25% off all the grandstand tickets. So that's available at all ways to acquire tickets. So go to CanadiansBaseball.com. You can call as well. All grandstand tickets, 25% off. No promo code required. Austin Cates, pitcher of the week for last week in the Northwest League. So lots going right. We know they did not get to the playoffs, but they've still been very good the second half, particularly lately. Their last game on Sunday, 11-1. And our next guest got one of those runs across the plate with an RBI single. Arjun Amla joins us once again here on Sekeres and Price. Arjun, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, guys. Thank you guys for having me.
Anytime, of course. Is there a little bit of melancholy for you here as another season winds into the books? I mean, maybe you've got fall season lined up and you're probably lots more baseball coming, but it's just always a little sad to see a season come to an end, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I've been with these guys for almost the whole entire year. If you want to include spring training, we've basically been here grinding together the whole entire year. So yeah, it is a little sad to see the season end, especially here in Vancouver. Just a place itself is special. Every day, day in, day out, there's thousands of fans and they're really cheering for us, so especially here in a special place like this, it is a little sad to see that season end, but I think it has been a long season for a lot of the guys, including me. So it's a good bit of both, a little bit, a little bit of happiness. You're like, oh, okay, a little bit of, you get a break, but it is sad for sure.
You've played 115 games yourself. We know that the baseball season at the major league level is an absolute marathon of 162 games. So you're not quite at that level yet, but this is more than you've played professionally in any other season. I just wonder, you use the word grind. What have you learned about having to be prepared and to, even on those days where maybe you're not feeling it, to bring your best day in and day out?
Yeah, playing 115 games, I've never done that before. I mean, last year I did play I think it was 90, but I did have that little bit of a break in the middle, so couldn't really count that as a 90 game straight stretch. So when it's 115, it's a good amount of games. Like you said, it's not the same as the major leagues, but for me at least, I got to learn a lot about how I need to take care of my body so I can maintain weight. I think that's the hardest thing is keeping weight on your body throughout the whole season, because that's a very important aspect of the game. That's how you hit balls hard, run fast, all those type of things. So just maintaining that weight, knowing how to prepare myself when I'm not feeling good. Like you said, there's different things, different preparation routines that I have on certain days. And it depends solely on how I feel and what I think my body's going to do that day. So there's a lot of things that I've learned throughout the year, but mainly it's how I need to fuel my body and prepare eating wise, as well as preparation for sure.
Primarily a shortstop, but you have been used as a DH, I think 20 times throughout the year. What's the adjustment there, and what are the challenges of keeping yourself in a game when you're not playing positionally?
Yeah, I think DH is a completely different story. All you're doing is hitting, and the rest of the game you're in the dugout. So I think the biggest thing with being a DH for me at least is making sure that I'm watching the game in between innings as well. I think if you stay present within that game or within the inning, if they're pitching or if you're pitching, doesn't matter. I think if you stay present, then you give yourself the best chance to stay in the game and active when it's your turn to hit.
You've had a super impressive season for a teenager, man. You're a month shy of turning the big 2-0, which is crazy. You've got the world in front of you. Teammates have, been older for the most part, and so they've climbed the ladder. I'm sure the Jays aren't super they don't consider you a priority to promote, given your age. But guy having a teammate like Trey Savage that accelerates like he has, he's a 22-year-old. It must be pretty cool just to see how this works and how, climbing that ladder is possible.
Definitely. I mean, I didn't know how I knew he was going to be good out the gate. Yeah. I mean, everyone knew he was going to be a great pitcher, and he throws like nobody else. He's funky, he's nasty, he's everything you want in a pitcher. But when he came to Vancouver, I didn't know what the game plan was, but he was here for 3 weeks and then he was gone, and it was wow. I didn't even get to really connect with my boy. So good for him. I mean, he deserves that. I thought he was a great guy. He's a great pitcher, and I think he's going to be a good leader one day too. So good for him. And
what would it be like to see a teammate of yours this season potentially pitch in the majors? There's a lot of calls for him to be in the bullpen here.
Yeah, I think I'm sure that's being talked about all throughout every single level.
Yeah.
I know the Vancouver Canadians, we have talked about it like, oh my God, Trey might pitch in the big leagues in September. Is it September? Yeah, September, October. Yeah, he might be in the big leagues. But I think that'd be sick, like if anyone deserves that, it's going to be him. I know he works super hard on his pitching craft. So I think that would be super cool. And it's honestly going to motivate us as well as a team as well to really be behind him and do it for ourselves as well.
What's your offseason look like? What's the plan? You got this, I know you're thinking about the next 6 games, 6 more games against Everett. You want to dial those in, presuming that goes fabulously. What's next for you? What's the routine look like?
Yeah, I think the offseason for me, and especially in the beginning, I do want to spend a lot of time with my family. I didn't get to spend a lot of time this year with my
Florida
family.
boy, folks, so he's a long way from home. Yeah.
Yeah, they came up here for a little bit. I had some friends come up here, but I don't think that's nearly enough, especially last year when I was in Dunedin, I was able to go home a lot on the off days. So I was able to really spend time with them. But I think the first thing I want to do is just, take a little bit of time to just spend some time with family, friends, and almost forget about the game of baseball. It's like, it's weird to say that, but especially after such a long season, it's like you want to take some time away. Of course I'm going to be doing baseball stuff. Like I'll be lifting and things like that. But for a little bit, I will want to spend some time with them. But I think a lot of the time is going to be spent, at the complex and in Dunedin, just training, getting stronger and preparing. But I think a lot of that time will also be spent in Orlando with Lindor, who I've always gotten a chance to practice with in the off season. So I think it's going to be like a 50-50 split and at home as well. So, it's just going to be a lot of different places, probably going to be in Florida, but definitely going to be working hard and trying to have a great season next year.
Vibes are high in Toronto, obviously division leading as they move into September now. Does that trickle down to the Canadians? And the minute you get drafted by an organization, obviously you're a part of them, but do you keep close tabs on what's going on with the Blue Jays?
Yes. Almost every day we have the Blue Jays game playing on the TV in the Canadians clubhouse. So, I think it's a huge jump that the Toronto Blue Jays have made from last year to this year itself. Like this year, team looks amazing. I think everyone's watching it and everyone's rooting for the Toronto Blue Jays, even in the minor leagues, because eventually that's who we want to play for one day. Through from low A to all the way to the big league. So I think that's a super important part for us as well. Just seeing how they play the game and how one day we can be there and be doing the same thing is super cool. Yeah.
I was in Toronto on the weekend.
Yeah.
Saw the Friday game. I never thought that the former Sky Dome could ever be an impressive place to play. It's really cool, man. That's a really cool stadium, and I never thought I'd be able to say that. Have you already put yourself at home plate there with the bat on your shoulder?
Yeah, I got to go there to Toronto after the draft. So that was 2 years ago. But I know they've made some renovations to the field.
Yeah,
but when I was there, I thought the stadium was already super, super cool. And yeah, I did get to hit some batting practice and, have my kid imagination go. One day I'm gonna be here, be in owners in Rogers Center. But I thought this field was super cool. Honestly, it might be my favorite field that I've ever been to in Major League Baseball. I might have that bias because I play for the Toronto Blue Jays, but I think even so, it is one of the best stadiums I've ever been to. Yeah.
Well, Arjun, you've been a pleasure to deal with all season long. Thanks for stopping by one more time here. Hey, who knows what the future holds? Maybe we get to see and talk again as a Vancouver Canadian for a few weeks. Maybe you're on the Trey Savage program next year. Who knows? But best of luck in the off season, and if we get a chance to do this another time, that would be just fabulous. Enjoy your final 6 games here
finish up
this
strong.
season. Yeah, let's tear the cover off the ball, man. Go wow the fans at Nat Bailey Stadium for the next week or so. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. Have a nice off season. See you guys.
Sekeres and Price from the Nation Network studios, built by Arbor Lee here at the historic Wall Center in beautiful downtown Vancouver. And the games are starting to come a little bit more frequently by the end of this month. So time to make your plans and turn your game night into a game weekend. Book your stay at the Wall Center. Enjoy an exclusive Sekeres and Price rate. Call 604-331-1000. Mention Sekeres and Price. Some blackout dates may apply based on availability. Now, a quick update from baseball's major leagues. And I mean quick, Jeff, because Both the Jays and Mariners are doing their very best to squander what has been an otherwise very good season for both of them. They are both 5-5 in the last 10, but the mediocrity goes beyond that, particularly for the Jays. And you also need the pictures to underscore exactly how bad it's been for both sides. I actually went to the game on Friday, as I mentioned with Arjun Amla earlier, and they were terrible. Shane Bieber was great on the bump, but they couldn't muster hits. And I wonder how this is going to play out for both sides, because it would have been a really fun autumn, and it still might be, but it was looking like an inevitability for both of the teams of note here for our city to be in baseball's postseason, and it better freaking happen still.
Well, and those footsteps aren't just footsteps the Blue Jays are hearing. Those are the Yankees who have, regained their form, figured some things out. Look, I mean, there's been so much good going on around the Blue Jays all season long that they've got to be careful. Like, that bullpen right now is a disaster, and like just the trickle down there of other guys, whether it's starters giving them quality starts, whether it's the hitters doing their part, and you get these leads late into games, but there's no certainty, no guarantee at all, because the bullpen just can't seem to put out fires. It's causing fires right now, and so that's a concern. Look, they weren't going to win at the rate they did through June and July. So, there's been some leveling off, but they've got the division lead as they turn to September here. It's still in their control.
It is.
And, there's reason to believe. It's been an incredible season. I've made it abundantly clear. Like, I'm not a huge Blue Jays guy, but I get it. I get it for the country. I get it for the fans of Toronto. They've come this far. Like, I think they'll make the playoffs. It's a question of what do they do when they get there.
Yes.
Mariners, on the other hand, I've been down this road way too many times through the years. God. And it just kind of feels like, the annual spinning of their wheels.
Yeah, and they
there's
because
too much talent there. Like,
well, that's the thing, is that they, with the deadline deals, which they never have previously really gone out and done, they are actually pretty balanced. Like, they've got bats, they've got pitching, and yet their run differential for the season, Jeff, is plus 17. Like, that's usually the hallmark of a 500 club. And right now, guess what? They're 529 and sinking. Like, they could end up being a 500 club by the end of this. That's the warning.
Having a season unlike any other from a catcher.
Yes. Yeah. Bonus offense.
But it goes way beyond that. I mean, Julio Rodriguez has had a pretty good year.
Yeah.
Randy Arozarena, they get it. Josh Naylor at the deadline, as you talked about, like, they've absolutely.
Eugenio's not been great since they got him, though. Would love that.
But at least, like, they made how many years?
Yes.
People screamed for this team to make
100%.
moves. So it would be massive disappointment, I would think, if the bottom sort of fell out for them. So we'll see if they can, get it back together here. But you're right, scuffling as things turn to September.
Not impressive, to say the least.
And they're going to get swamped by the Hawks, right? I mean, that's just the way it works in Seattle. Like, you want to do the heavy lifting to get people on board before football season starts, both the NFL and college football season. But even years where, they're pushing for a playoff spot, they know where they sit on the pecking order in Seattle. And they're going to get swamped here as the Seahawks kick off.
If the Seahawks have a marvelous start, for sure. If the Seahawks go 0-2, then the eyes will go back to the Mariners, but we'll see what happens. Let's get to one of your first loves here, Jeff, and that is the tennis world, and a couple of great stories from Flushing Meadows and the U.S. Open. As Felix Auger-Aliassime and Leylah Annie Fernandez are both into the quarterfinals, albeit women's doubles for Leylah. She's teamed up with the legend Venus Williams. As for Felix, just 2-7 versus Andrei Rublev. I saw the third round match in its entirety versus Zverev. You watched the fourth round in its entirety, and I think we agree. This might be the best we have ever seen him play. He was 2-13 combined versus Rublev and Zverev, and he looks dominant versus both of them.
Yeah, 4 sets and 3 sets.
Yeah.
He talked about it on court yesterday that the last time he got this far at the U.S. Open, he was 21, and he really, he didn't know what was going on.
You're playing on adrenaline.
Completely. And so for him, he talked about, his match record head-to-head with those guys hasn't been good, but he said give them credit. Like, in those matches, he didn't think he played that poorly. It's just they were better players and got the better of him then. He looks totally different right now. The confidence level, his serve, to the point that yesterday against Rublev in the third set, and he wins it in straights, Rublev in his fourth, so it was 5-3, Rublev serving. And Felix basically just let him have the win in that game.
Yeah.
Because he was so confident that on his own serve, he would close him out.
Yeah.
Jim Courier didn't love the tactic on the broadcast, but I mean, you can just tell that Felix is feeling it right now. And so why put the effort into, a sort of
waste the kilojoules.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Like,
people don't understand that with tennis. There's a lot of giving away of points for strategy.
And so Felix, he had put himself in a position to sort of go down that road, and it worked for him. You know what's wild? Only one of the 8 round of 16 matches on the men's side went more than 3 sets.
Really?
So where I'm thinking, like, Felix gets through in straights, like, good for him, rest and recovery. 7 of the other 8 guys into the round of 8 also advanced in straights. Like, you would expect a little more parity and competition that deep into a Grand Slam, but
which brings me to Denis Shapovalov, who over the weekend missed his chance versus Jannik Sinner. It's 1-1 in sets. He's up 3-love in the third in sets, in games, pardon me, and then he just completely becomes undone. And as I'm watching him tweeting about it, somebody's like, he's just got to keep his head screwed on. He's going to be great. Well, he didn't. He completely lost his head. Maybe the worst I've ever seen him lose his head, except for the time he frustratingly smacked the ball and hit somebody.
Not just somebody, the umpire.
Yeah, the umpire. That's right. He sarcastically was giving thumbs up and cheering when he lost points, looking at his box. Like, I'm kind of done with Denis Shapovalov here. Like, it's hard to cheer for this guy.
I hear where you're coming from, and I'm not cutting him any slack, but you mentioned players looking at their box.
Yeah.
I am so done with that.
100%. Yeah.
After every point. And it's to the point that I think, like, coaches and families should be secretly placed in the stadium so that the players don't know where they are.
Well, what happened with the rules on that? Did they relax the rules on coaching from the stands?
I think a little bit.
Yeah, because there was former rules that prevented all of this. But I guess they figured, hey, you're in every other sport, you're allowed to coach during the course of a match. We're not going to stop them this time. But yeah, you're right. It is distracting because they look every single player, whether they're up, whether they're down, they immediately go there. And it's become a little bit of a distraction. As for Layla, she and Venus Williams are becoming a story. They've never played together. They barely knew each other. And she's sort of chronicled how this invitation came from Venus. But it was really loosely put together. 2 different generations, obviously, mid-40s now for Venus Williams and early 20s for Layla. They're into the quarters. Serena is now being guilted into showing up by Venus. Venus is like, where have you been, sis? Time to show up. It's a great story, and I hope they can surf it a little while longer. It's good for Layla. She's out of singles since she had a bit of a decent run there, but this is good experience for her.
For sure, and she's had a good summer. I mean, she won in Washington, right? And then Vicky Mboko had her magical
day in the sun,
now with Felix, like the golden era of Canadian tennis seems to be back on track a little bit here.
Yeah, I hope so.
There's some ebbs and flows, but for Layla, sure, like just being in the presence of the greatness of Venus Williams and having fun and having success. Good on them. Let's hope they can see this thing through to the end.
And who knows? Because I mean, she doesn't have the length of Venus, but Venus doesn't have the muscle of Serena, but was able to make it work. That could be a good tip to pick up for Layla, because she's a wonderful tennis player, but she does not have a serve. So you wonder how she's going to be able to manufacture bigger wins in her career without having, the Sabalenka serve.
Yeah.
That's going to be difficult.
Physically, you're right. Doesn't match up with a lot of the others out there, but doesn't give up on points. Just hustles like nobody's business.
And a good spirit. There's a lot of sourpusses in tennis, and she is not one of them. So
and we should mention as well that Felix back on court. He's got one of the early matches tomorrow on Wednesday, taking on the 8th seed Australian Alex de Minaur, who, again, a guy that just hunts down balls. No quit whatsoever. Physically isn't the most gifted player out there, but Felix has to be ready for a battle because there's just no quit in a guy like de Minaur.
Have you noticed that the rallies have improved in men's tennis? Like men's tennis is pretty good to watch these days, and that sounds like a matchup that would probably lend to more of those good rallies as well. Talk some soccer a little bit off the top, the lack thereof from the Whitecaps, but a little bit more soccer for you. Another Canadian men's friendly to report. Not for this window, but for the next in November. And no, it is not here. It is a November 13th date in Toronto at BMO. And yeah, I think it's catering to the European pros and cutting 5 hours off their commute. And we can't move Vancouver east. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't work like that. So unfortunately, this is just what's going to happen here, Jeff. Although I would suspect early windows next year, they might want to put up with that extra flight just to get used to playing at BC Place.
Right. So we know the when. Do we know the?
Yes, Ecuador. So another top flight. It's in Americas, but they're wetting their whistle with the European clubs this window. But that's a good squad, and maybe a chance to see Whitecaps past and present as well, depending on who Ecuador calls up. So. We'll see, but it's pretty exciting. By the way, another little note there: Kyle Larin having a baby, or they want to have a baby soon in the coming days, so he may have to miss this window after all. So former Whitecap Theo Bair has been called in as backup. He's in League One France now, by the way, with Auxerre. Easy commute for him, obviously, because they're in Europe for the entirety of this window.
There you go. Theo Bair. There's a name that
I know, and
hadn't thought of in a while.
And he's sort of like a Sam Adekugbe story where he got jettisoned, I don't know, and Cornelius for that matter. I don't know if giving up's the right word, but they wanted him to develop elsewhere, and he has, so good for him. Vancouver Rise, 7th straight match unbeaten, a 2-1 win over Montreal over at Swangard. Pretty decent crowd from what I saw on TV. North Van's Holly Ward with her 5th of the year, 9 goal contributions now for her. They also traded for Montreal's leading scorer within hours before the match. So I don't believe she played in the match for either side. But Latifa Abdu, I think she's 5th in league scoring maybe, with 6 goals on the year. So they're beefing up, a 3rd straight win overall, best home record in the Super League, and they're 2nd overall in the league now. So good for the Vancouver Rise. Okay. Football of the college variety now, which we don't normally chat about here, mostly because I don't really follow it. It's a bit of a blind spot for me here as a sports broadcaster, but hard not to follow it this weekend with the explosion of games. I think there was 100 college football games over the weekend in the NCAA, and 2 huge stories. And both of them blow up in the face of fans of their own sides. Belichick is absolutely blown out in North Carolina. And the next Manning, Arch, Cooper's son, mind you, but still, Arch Manning, underwhelming to the nth degree in a 14-7 loss to Ohio State. Mind you, a very, very good squad. But the meltdowns were very entertaining on social media, mostly because it was 48-14 for TCU over Belichick. Never got to a bigger deficit than his relationship's age gap of 48, but that was a great over-under to watch in the second half.
He looked miserable.
Oh, my God.
Now, when does he not?
Yes.
But he looked
extra
more miserable than usual.
Does it look for those of you watching, there's a good look at it right there.
The fans that were fleeing for the exits in the third quarter, Belichick hasn't coached a lot of home games where fans were leaving that early. But, yeah, I mean, they got absolutely smoked. And then the other one that you mentioned, it's a matchup of 1 against 3. It's Texas, it's Ohio State, 2 of the big football factories.
Why are you scheduling that game so early?
Well, I mean, I guess you build some early season hype right out of the gate.
I'm sure the TV stations love it, but if you're in the school, why are you doing that?
But for all of that buildup, like it was 7-0 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And like I'm all for defensive games. Like, we say this about hockey too. Like a low-scoring game doesn't mean it's a bad game or a boring game. You can have great defensive battles in football as well, but 7-0 going to the fourth quarter. And yeah, Arch Manning, 7-30, 170 yards, just the one touchdown and a pick. Not exactly exploding out of the gates for a team that was top seed heading into this game and into this season. So we'll see where things go. It can only go up from here for the Texas Longhorns.
I'll let you do your own homework, but there was a lot of CFL references around Arch Manning, learning to spell the word Saskatchewan included. And yeah, but his legacy will be built on more than just the one game versus Ohio State. So good luck to Arch. These are wearing that name bar on the back as a court. Good luck to him, honestly. Bogey's poll question from last show. Are the Canucks a playoff team this season? And it wasn't yes, no. We wanted to gauge where you were on this. Confident was the first option. Or sorry, convinced was the first option. Confident the second option. So, pretty good. If everything goes right, the third option, and then no was the fourth option. Where do you think everybody landed?
I think it's everything has to go right.
That's indeed 55%. 22% are confident. Only 8% convinced. And 15% said no. And all this based on the early projections that were coming out, JFresh included, and the player ratings from EA last week. Adding some, I think some, I don't know if it's unfounded, but just, I think, surprising optimism for this team.
JFresh had them at 98 points?
Yeah. Like 10th in the league.
Now, they had 90 last year with all of the turmoil and drama.
And that's the simple
4
math.
more wins.
That's so easy to do.
Yep.
But it's not that easy to do.
No, I know. Those last 4 wins.
Yeah.
But I can see a path here. Like if Thatcher Demko is completely healthy and back on his game, and this defense should be pretty good.
And we covered Elias Pettersson in the opening segment. That's
it's a question. Can you win enough 2-1 and 3-1 games over the course of a season? Because on those nights that your opponent gets 3 or 4, I do think that this team is going to have its work cut out for it to win sort of the track meet, run and gun kind of hockey games. So, but I mean, again, if I'm laying out a path to the playoffs, it's on the back of Thatcher Demko returning to Vezina caliber goaltending. And he is an absolute wild card, but we are led to believe that he has had a fine summer of training. We just haven't seen or heard from him.
Yeah. No, at all.
But that'll change here soon.
Whether he likes it or not. Thank you, Jeff. We are live on YouTube and Twitter and all our socials as usual here at noon. By the way, Easy knows the last show was so long ago, you've forgotten how bad we were. So let's just put that to bed for now. We're back on Thursday. And then back to a full schedule next week with Matt. Jeff with us on Thursday. Thank you for today, though, Jeff.
Yep.
Don't forget to support all of our sponsors and keeping it local, folks. We'll talk to you in a couple days.